Turn your rough edges into something that is.
Welcome to episode 2 of Concrete and Glitter. I'm your host today, Benay Pink, and we are going to be talking about first crushes. Now, if you haven't seen episode 1, it was all about Nick, who is sitting with us today. You know, Nick, I don't think first crushes are always just crushes.
Especially when you grow up trying to survive yourself.
And sometimes your first crush is honestly just a cover-up story. So in the last episode you said that you are from Lephalale in Limpopo, and I want to know, what was romance like in your hometown growing up? I mean, all the couples were straight. There was not queer couples like I mentioned in the previous episode. It was really just straight people, and it was husband and wife, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So that's all it was, you know. I never got exposed to any queer relationships really, you know. You didn't see anyone holding hands or anything like that, you know, like except for straight people, but you know. So were boys meant to behave in a certain way? Yes. Every single boy wanted to play rugby, every single boy wanted to, like, I don't know, probably wrestle, go hunting, fishing, all of those things. I was never one of those boys. So yeah, it was always just masculine. You have to do the things that the boys do, and the moment you just like tweak a little bit to the other side of like being on stage or whatever, you immediately get called the M word. And what did masculinity mean? It just meant that you're a man. That's what it is. It's like, it means that you lead the house and you lead the home and you're the man. Femininity was rarely celebrated. I'm curious because I think a lot of people go through this. Did you ever feel the need to put on a performance of heterosexuality in your hometown? Yes. Every time I had a even slightly, I want to say gay thought, without even understanding what gay meant, you know, I would know that whatever I am thinking right now is taught to me to be wrong, and I would just try to conceal it, and I would think, okay, well, you know what, I was raised to know that it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Thus, it means whenever I feel close to a girl, it means that she's going to become my wife and we're going to have babies and get married and all of that stuff. But never even have had one thought where it was like, okay, well, so I'm getting close to a girl, it means that we're friends. You know, it means that I have a liking in her because we've got the same interests. Those interests were boys. You once mentioned to me that you kissed a girl in order to conceal the fact that you liked boys. What did that moment feel like to you, emotionally? Listen, this was, back in 2019, I think, you know. I was trying to prove to one of my best friends that I was a straight guy. So there was this girl who came from America or something. She was blonde, blue-eyed, everything he was into. And she approached me and she's like, listen, because I was on the dance floor with the girls and my friend was on, like, at the pool table with the guys. And this girl approached me and she's like, do you want to dance? I was like, yeah, sure, let's dance. And then she asked me, listen, are you otherwise? I was like, how did you know? Because for me it was a secret. By that point, I knew who I was. I knew what my sexual identity was and everything. I knew what I was like exploring. So I knew I was into guys, you know? And the fact that she could see this with me just dancing on the floor, like I felt like, oh my gosh, my identity is being, you know, exposed here. And she, next thing after dancing and stuff and asking me if I, you know, am otherwise, she asked, well, do I want to kiss her? And I thought to myself, you know what? I've never kissed a girl. Well, not like that anyways, but I've never kissed a girl. So I was like, let me take the opportunity, because now currently all the guys are watching and the other girls are watching, and this is an opportunity for me to show that, you know what, I am straight, honey. I am S-T-R-A-I-A. How do you spell that straight? I can't even spell right. But we kissed, and then after kissing, I said, you know what, let's go stand next to the pool table so that I can kiss you next to the other guys so they can actually see. So I kissed her there. Thank her for that, honestly, for playing along with the whole acting gig. Because afterwards, all the guys were like, "Yo, Niku, bro, let's get you a drink." And I'm like, no, honeys, get her a drink. She did the work. And now here's what happened afterwards. So we get her the drink, and then she comes to me, she's like, "Actually, now tell me, who do you really want to kiss in the bar? Who are you into?" And I point at the only queer guy that I could see in the bar in the corner. He was not even that good looking, I'm so sorry. Not that looks matter, but like, the vibes were not vibing, man. But she drags me to him, and she introduces the two of us. She doesn't even know this guy. And I ended up kissing him. And the next thing, I see my friend standing there, and he's just like, "Niku, what the fuck, bro? Like, what is going on?" And I just said, "Listen, I think we've had enough brandy and coke for the night. We need to leave now." And we go to McDonald's and have a nice conversation about, my sexual orientation. And he says, "You know what? You never judge anyone, so we can't judge you. I can't judge you." And yeah, that's the story of the first time I kissed a girl.
What did that moment feel like to you emotionally?
And you know what? It was quite sad, actually. Like, I felt happy that my friend was there to support me, to say that, you know what, so what? I'm here for you, I don't judge you. So that to me felt like, okay, I have a safe space, because I thought he was gonna like shun me, And immediately there it felt like, okay, well, I'm starting to build myself a chosen family. But also it felt scary, because being in a straight bar, kissing another man, wild. Because even the next night we went there, and some guy approached me and my friend and said, "Oh, there was 2 gay guys here last night kissing." And we just ignored it, pretending like it wasn't me, even though we know it was me. And we just moved on with our day, but that itself was a bit scary, because this is not the territory that is a safe space for queer people. And yeah, but also I think felt proud of myself that I finally did it. I tried it, it's not for me. Sorry, girls.
So were you trying to convince other people or yourself?
Definitely other people. Obviously, like I knew what my sexual orientation was and everything, so I was trying to just show the other people that I can kiss this beautiful blonde, blue-eyed woman who's standing here, and you guys can't get any, because, yeah. So silly.
Did you ever feel guilt attached to attraction growing up?
Actually, yeah. There was a lot of moments where I felt attracted to guys, but I knew that it was wrong, or at least that was what I was told. But I didn't understand that it was homosexuality, I didn't understand that it was me actually like having deep feelings for guys. I just knew that whatever I was feeling, I was not meant to feel in that moment, because, I was indoctrinated to not be that person. So yeah, no, there was a bunch of those moments.
What was harder, hiding from other people or hiding from yourself?
Hiding from myself. Actually owning up to who I am. I think there's a lot of times, and it's probably something every queer person goes through, where you feel like what you're doing is wrong, and you should just kill yourself, and you should just not continue with this, and you're going to go to hell, and because these are things that you are told as a child. And I think the moment you tell yourself in the mirror that, listen, that's wrong, stop trying to pretend, own who you are. Once you get through that, it's a new way of survival opens up, and I think that was the hardest part. Did you ever have a crush on a boy you could never talk about?
Oh my gosh, yes. Who didn't? Who didn't? There was this guy in my high school with those beautiful legs. Oh, and in that moment, again, I didn't know exactly what the feelings were, but I knew that, oh gosh, that's beautiful. But now you're so scared to say anything because the moment you say something, people are just going to be like, oh, you gay. But sometimes, you know what? Just compliment a person, okay? Like today at work, I told this gorgeous man that he has a nice sweater on, and doesn't mean that I'm into him. Yes, I find him attractive, but that's not the point. Compliment people when they look good, okay? That's my point here.
What do you think that secrecy does to young people emotionally?
Oh, it kills. Secrecy kills. It depends also, are we keeping other people's secrets or our own? But the more you keep your own secrets, you're going to slowly end up resenting yourself, and that room just becomes dark.
Do you think queer kids become more observant because they have to survive socially?
Yeah, no, definitely. Listen, I think every queer child just watches and looks to see if it's safe enough for us to actually say something. That's sad.
Were there ever love stories around you that shaped your understanding of relationships?
When I look at my parents, I just see the ultimate love story. I thank them so much for being such a good example of what love means, They have had their, battles and conversations and stuff like every relationship does. No relationship is perfect. But looking at my parents and seeing the way they love each other, it's really just shown me that this is what love is being there for one another in times when the other person doesn't feel 100%. And yeah, just loving each other unconditionally and supporting one another. And yeah, my parents they've got it. Like, I don't know what they've got, but they've got it. Like, the fact that my dad also still opens the car door for my mother, he practices chivalry. Yo, guys, that is so attractive on any man. And honestly, kudos to you, Dad. Kudos to you, because you make mom fall in love with you every day, and that's just beautiful. So, no, they truly are that ideal role model, power couple.
Oh, I love that. Did small town life make your emotions, feel bigger?
I suppose so, because in a small town, especially looking back at my own town, it's a thing of, you are limited to being creative. So because of those limitations, it's like a frustration thing. So you need an outlet, so you start like singing in open spaces and painting more, and heck, using cardboard boxes to create like weird design of clothing for yourself. But yeah, it did.
And of course, was there ever a moment where you realized, I cannot keep pretending?
That's a deep one, because I think it was literally at the pinnacle point where I had to choose to continue with my life or not. And it's a weak moment, I think a lot of people go through. But for me, that was also a turning point in deciding, what, I want to continue. I don't want my story to end here, and I want to persevere. So I did.
Now I wonder, do you think queer people learn performance before they learn freedom?
Oh, definitely. The fact that I mentioned also that, so many times I concealed my feelings or whatever, like that's performance right there. You are acting. We're all just acting, honestly. Everybody's out there just filling a role. Yeah, sure, you might have your degree in your design or your architecture, or what engineering. But at the end of the day, when you go to work, you are putting on a face and you are performing a act. And that's what everybody does. And I think when you grow up suppressing your feelings, especially, you have the greatest performance skills because you can walk into an interview room, convince people that, listen, this is who I am and this is who I'm not. And yeah, that's the story.
At some point, crushes become bigger than just romance. I mean, you start seeing beauty everywhere. When did beauty become important to you, beyond people?
You know, I think beauty was always important to me. Growing up, I always looked at everything. You know, the little flowers in the garden, you know, you go to the trash, you see the snails over there. Like, every single detail of life, I just found beautiful, and I still do. So, no, beauty has always been important to me.
Would you say that beautiful men were your first introduction to aesthetics?
No, beautiful woman, that's where it was. But obviously not for sexual attraction, but I always just found beautiful women to be so powerful. Like I remember I had this primary school teacher, and everybody in my hometown knows this woman. She is a lady who struts in high heels, wears her makeup, and just walks with confidence. And I think that was my first introduction to aesthetics.
And now, did that ever evolve into like your art, architecture, fashion, drag?
You know, looking back specifically at that specific teacher, I think she may have inspired a bit of my drag, to be honest. But maybe in a slight way also some of my art. Architecture, not so much. Architecture, I think, only came later in life, so we can't include that in this one.
Now I want to know, what kind of spaces inspire you emotionally?
Honestly, I think I would have to say any space that practices any form of spirituality, religion, and so on. There's just some divine beauty that comes into where people practice, you know, the things that they believe in. And those designs, those buildings are just, I want to say, more thought through, you know, because it's considering the emotion, the depth of a person maybe praying, you know. Like I think that's where those types of spaces are very emotional because they're intentional.
And as an architect, what makes a building beautiful?
Any building that has a form of, you know, arts and crafts era in it. Any building where there is like chiseled and, you know, like, give me something that is unique, not something that is prefabricated. Give me something that is properly designed and made by hand. I love that type of architecture, that type of design in general. Can architecture feel sensual? Definitely, it depends on the type of architecture you're making. Nothing comes to mind at this moment, but yes.
Do you think artists teach us how to see the world differently?
That's what artists are meant to do. They're meant to help us perceive things differently, like open our eyes. That's what artists do. They paint a red circle on a white sheet and then they tell us it's Japan, you know, where it might actually just be the sun. Same thing actually, but, you know, they open our eyes.
Which architects shaped your imagination?
You know, a lot of architects look at these big names like Zaha Hadid and Frank Gehry, etc., you know, like Le Corbusier. But for me, it is also a big name actually, but it's Antoni Gaudi. He just finished his monument with the Sagrada Familia, and a lot of his buildings are just so creative, they're so unique.
I love Gaudi. Like, he's got the saddest story, honestly, as an architect that I know as well. But his creativity and everything, amazing.
Like, they're not your typical standard, like, minimalist, whatever nonsense that we have today. Not that it's all nonsense, but his buildings just had a different thing to it. Like there's a lot of like feeling, inside the spaces, the way he makes use of windows. This is one building that he has, I forgot the name of it, but there's one building that he designed where it's like smaller windows at the top, bigger windows at the bottom, or the other way around, I can't remember. But the way he plays with that element to like allow the same equal of light to run through the shaft of that space, it's insane. It's really beautiful. I feel like he really thinks his building through, and I appreciate it.
And now I want to know which artists made you feel understood. For me, it's Tim Burton, but I want to know for you.
So I've always been obsessed with surrealism, and two artists that stand out when I think of surrealism is number one, Frida Kahlo, which, by the way, she doesn't think she was a surrealist. She was. And then definitely Salvador Dali. Salvador Dali is somebody I fully relate with, I think. I don't know him personally, who does, but his art just speaks to me. Like, I love the way it just plays with your mind. So it's definitely shaped, I think, the way I do life as well. And my own art and architecture is, I want to make people wonder, but why?
Now, going back to your hometown, did growing up in the bushveld had an effect on how you understand beauty?
I mean, the word beauty is has such a wide definition, but I definitely still find a lot of beauty in the bushveld that I don't find in other spaces, and I think that's general, but a sunset in the bushveld, the way animals move and do their thing, and there's just a lot of beauty in the bushveld, and I miss it. I miss it dearly.
As I understand, Gaudi's work is also intertwined with nature, meeting design. I want to know with your work, does nature and design meet each other a lot in your work?
I mean, looking at most recently, yes. I'm working on some sites where we have to preserve the nature, the trees and everything before we, consider where the buildings are placed. We have to consider where the plants are, where the trees are. We preserve, like indigenous species, indigenous trees. So I consider that first before I think of where the building is put. I don't just like rip a hole into the fabric of, the site. I carefully consider, okay, but would it not look great if we were looking at this tree, while we are, sitting and watching a movie or something, So I consider nature first before I consider the building.
Now, I want to know, I don't look like a building, but I want to know, is drag another form of architecture?
I mean, yes, drag is architecture. Drag is performance. Architecture is performance. Drag is art. Architecture is art. Drag is something that makes people feel okay, and I think that's architecture too. It's really just, you can't just have a basic thing. Drag is not basic. So the moment you create architecture that is also not basic, it becomes this all-in-all thing, that you see in these digest magazines and Arc Daily and etc. That is, drag and architecture have that thing together. That's now where you see drag queens on, I guess, RuPaul's Drag Race or whatever other TV shows they may be.
And do you think that queer people become curators of beauty because we spend so much time reconstructing ourselves?
Automatically, we just want to learn more. We want to know more. We see these drag queens doing their makeup and we think to ourselves, well, let's go watch a YouTube tutorial about it. But as much as queers become, curators of beauty, I guess, so does anybody else. For example, if you are somebody who loves to eat, you start, watching your YouTube shows so you can make the dishes you want to make. If you are somebody who loves art, you're going to start watching YouTube videos on how to paint this particular painting. So you tap into what piques your interest most. And I think because queer people really go through the whole thing of wanting to conceal themselves and who they are, they tap into that beauty market so that they can start adding layers to themselves externally, so that that kind of becomes a new internal thing that shines through.
Was discovering beauty also a way of discovering yourself?
I don't understand that question. I am beautiful. But sure, I guess a part of myself at least.
So I think based on our conversation we already know the answer, but who is your biggest architect crush?
I mean, I wouldn't say I have a crush, but like I said, Antoni Gaudi's buildings, superb. And Zaha Hadid's willingness to get through that building, architecture really killed her. Yeah, no, she's inspirational.
I knew it. But now, who is an artist that you would absolutely ruin your life for?
Okay, so I suppose we can consider him an artist. I do, but Bo Banks. If you know him, you know him. If you don't Google him, please.
Ooh, girl, I know, but we won't tell. Don't Google it, please. Now, we were on architecture, we were on architects. I want to know, mention a building to me that changed your brain chemistry.
That is a deep question, because now I have to tap back into what I learned in architecture school, and nothing comes to mind like this. But I think for the sake of the conversation, the Sagrada Familia, listen, I want to go experience it. My next travel destination is definitely going to be Barcelona, Spain, because I want to go see that masterpiece.
We should definitely go to Barcelona. But speaking of cities, what is the most beautiful city that you have experienced?
I would say Venice, Italy. It was truly just such a amazing experience. I guess also Amsterdam, really. Amsterdam was a beauty of a city to also explore.
Now, what is more attractive? Intelligence or taste?
Honey, I am definitely a sapiosexual. Listen, give me a man who knows stuff and who can teach me things and wants to learn from me too. You're attractive, a listener. It's giving, are we gonna get married now?
I think every queer person reaches a point in their life where living honestly becomes political. When did you stop apologizing for who you are? Well, that depends actually, because I stopped caring about what bullies said or did or whatever, here by, I want to say grade 9, But when it comes to me owning my identity and actually knowing who I was and everything, I think that started here at the age of 21, where I started telling people that this is who I am, this is what I deal with, this is how I identify, this is who I'm attracted to. And I think since that age, really just started blooming. And if I look at the social media part of it, I think that probably started here in 2023. How long ago is that? I don't know. But that's when I was during my unemployment. Guys, unemployment will show you things. Because during my unemployment, that's when I was okay, well, just make some content and don't care and just do. So yeah, no, it's a very question, but honestly, I'm just happy that I got through it and I really just stopped caring what people think. Mind you, I never actually cared what people think, but yeah, you get it. I see. And what does living authentically actually mean to you? Living authentically, it's at that point, what we just discussed, that you stop caring what people think, at that moment when you don't bother about what people are saying or what they're doing, how their actions actually have no impact on your life. Actually, you're the one impacting theirs, type of thing. I don't know. The moment you stop caring about what other people think, that's when you become the most authentic self you can be. And you will find a lot of your haters on this journey. And that's okay. Let them hate you. Or don't. I don't care. But like, don't let what people say affect your trajectory in life, you know? You know where you need to be, even if you're still figuring it out. Write those things down. But you know you need to get there. Don't let them be obstacles. Now back on episode 1 where we discussed your TikTok and content creation and the fact that you have a very big platform. Does visibility come with some responsibility? Of course. I look at all of these celebrities like social media influencers, content creators, etc. The moment you start reaching like a big following, even if you have a little following actually, you have to be very careful with what you're saying as well, because your voice actually holds so much power because there's people that look up to you. Heck, I'm even looking at myself from before, you know, becoming a content creator and, you know, having videos go viral and so on. I'm just looking at like the time when I was in leadership and so on. And I'm thinking to myself that they were like young students who also looked up to me and like said like, oh wow, okay, actually, you know, this is what this person is doing, you know, so they look at you, you have people looking at you. It's like being a parent, you know, you've got these kids looking at you and like thinking, wow, okay, is this okay, is this not okay? And that is power. The fact that you have the ability to alter the way some people think, or you know, just start a conversation. Like, I'm happy we're having this one, but again, this is something that holds power because other people can now tap into this conversation and join us, you know? And back on the fact on being a professional architect, has being queer had an impact on how people treat you professionally? This is a deep question. Because there was a time, I'm not going to mention any names, I'm not going to mention any companies on this one, but there was a time back in 2022 that I was employed by someone. Mind you, because this was like one of my big first employment situations, I kept my identity to myself. I knew at that point who I was and, you know, who I was becoming. But I kept my identity to myself, I kept it concealed. I was working at that company for 8 months only for them to retrench me. And their reasoning was because that we had a lack in drafting work, but I think the moment I showed up to work wearing nail polish, and that employer asked my colleague, like, is it so, you know, speculating on, you know, my sexual orientation. I didn't think that the lack in drafting work was actually an excuse for like, you know what, you're gay, we can't have that here. And I was really trying to conceal that. I was really trying to hide it. And I don't think anyone should go through that. Just because you are gay, just because you are whatever, who cares? That should not matter on how I perform my work. That man had me in his company for 8 months. He never said anything about my performance. He never said anything about, you know, me slacking or anything like that. He just said, no, we have lack in drafting work. You were the last hired, first fired, you know. I was like, yeah, sure, it sounds valid, you know, because last hired, I guess. But also you could have done salary cuts. There's a lot you could have done. Long story short, I left, and I just hope that no one else goes through something like that, because just because who you are, that shouldn't have an impact. No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't have an impact on your place at work and how you're performing, you know? If I was doing my work good, award me for it. But now because you see me wearing nail polish, girl, crazy. Do you think softness is political? Sure, I guess. I wouldn't necessarily say political, but yeah, I guess just being yourself is political, you know, because people like us question the binary. We allow people to think and to wonder, but is it just like all heteronormative conversations that, you know, should exist, or narrative that should exist? It's like, no.
We are a variety of people on this earth, and we should be recognized and celebrated as we are. And the way we dress, the way we look, the way we act does not have an impact on the way we work. Heck, I am here fully queer and I'm a professional architect. Nothing has stopped me. So, I've said.
I've been through a lot, and I surely know that you've been through a lot. Now, I want to ask you, what does standing up for other people look like in everyday life?
I think the moment that you are yourself and that you know that there are people in your office or in your whatever environment who are like you immediately stand up for them just by being authentically yourself. Because you show them that it's okay for them to just be who they are, to just be, you know? Like, yes, it's one thing to say that, listen, if I see trouble somewhere, I must go stand up for that person. But I must also show that person, when trouble comes to me, how I stand up for myself. Because you can't always be fighting other people's battles. You can't. They have to fight their own battles sometimes. But it's good if you can show them how to do it first.
I see. I want to know, have you always been political?
I think in a way, yes. You know, I remember back with my uncle. Oh, guys, bless his heart. May he rest in peace. I miss him dearly, but we would always have political conversations. You know, he was very like right-winged, that person. And I know a lot of people like, yeah, no, you can't befriend or like you can't trust your family or whatever who were like on that side. But you know what? It's good to have those people in your life as well because they also bring you perspective and you can bring perspective to theirs. Just because the left wings are out here and the right wings are out here doesn't mean that we can't be friends either. Like I need to put it out there. You're allowed to have your political views and still be friends with people who don't have the same values, I guess, as you. It's fine. We're just not gonna like get married and start a family together. That's all. But we can still have a chat about it and see, you know, I'm not going to try and persuade you to change your mind, but I'm going to give you information that maybe could. But the purpose will not be for me to like persuade you to change yours. But I can say this, is that my uncle and I, we always had these deep conversations on politics because I'm a bit more, well, I'm actually very left-winged, he's very right-winged, so we never saw eye to eye when it came to these debates, but we would hear each other out. We would know that the other person's views and values and morals and whatever is valid. There's a reason that you think the way you think. But understand that there's also a reason that I think the way I think. So we'd always have these conversations, we would have fights, but afterwards be like, okay, cool, no. You know, and then we'd have dinner, nothing matters, you know? Like, nothing else matters. But I've always also been someone to stand up for human rights, you know. When it came to, oh goodness, first strike that I was part of was Fees Must Fall. My mother saw me on the Facebook page of that Fees Must Fall thing. And she was like, my kind, wat doen jy? What are you doing? I was like, Mom, it's for, like, Fees Must Fall. Like, I believe education should be free. There's no reason I think that education can't be free. Heck, the government is eating our tax money like nothing. So you want to tell me that there's no money for our students and our people to like have free education? Come on now. So if you put the tax money in the right place, I believe you could. I'm not a politician, but I will stand up for human rights whenever and wherever I can. That's also why we have pride. So,
And being from a small town, growing up queer, do you think that you are aware of more injustices because you're in a small town?
no, very, very. Because let me tell you, why is it? Why is it without you knowing what politics is as a child, you know? You know that, you know, your mother says something, your father says something, your teacher says something that is negative maybe towards another person, or you a brother, a sister, whatever. Like somebody in your life is saying something negative towards someone or about someone. And you think to yourself, but what if that person was me, you know? Because innately I think queer people especially like have this feeling of we are different. We're aware of this. We don't know why yet, but we know we're different. And I think the moment you know you're different from the people that is directly close to you, you immediately start seeing differences in other people that you want to also, I think, celebrate, you know? You want to like allow people to just exist within their differences and learn from them. Goodness, we need to learn from other people. We can't just like stick to your breed, you know? You have to learn from people who are different from you, because that's how we grow as a human society, you know?
Mm. Now, there's always some form of conversation happening in South Africa, but what more conversations do you think we need to have honestly in South Africa? You know, I think we're having enough conversations about literally every topic. It's just that people are not listening. The government is not listening. Like, enough. Let me say that. They're not listening enough, rather. Because we constantly have conversations about GBV, we have conversations about queer rights, we have conversations about Black Lives Matter, we have conversations about literally everything. But there's not enough being done to tackle these, you know, things that we're fighting. And I think that's the sad part. So we are having these conversations. Like the entire social media is on it. We are currently discussing this. So conversations are being had, but nobody's listening. I wonder sometimes, do you think that art can change people's perspectives politically? And I think that is what artists do. They alter your way of thinking, you know, and I love an artist, any form, whether it's a painter, a musician, whatever you may, a drag queen, every single form of art is political. And I love artists for that, because they make us question things that we currently know. And I want artists to just continue doing that. No matter if you think that, okay, no one is buying this, or no one is listening to this, or watching this, or whatever, like, continue doing what you're doing, because somewhere, somehow, like, there is that one person who's watching you constantly, and your art is probably for them, and they will spread your story. And I also just want to add on to this, right? So I watched this documentary on like Homo sapiens and why we're the only human species that's out there. And it comes to like down, well, I'm not a biological whatever person, I'm not a scientist. So don't quote me on this, but the scientists can comment and tell me what they think about this. But I watched this documentary, and my understanding from it is that, you know, Homo sapiens, the reason we've become to only be the only human species that's left on Earth, where all the others have been, you know, disappeared and eradicated by natural disasters and so on, is because we always traveled in large groups and we always had a form of society. So the knowledge that you and I have, that we, you know, are talking about right now, that's being shared with other people, you know, and because we share that knowledge, other people are learning, and they like either doing things differently, they're taking notes, or they're improving on what we're saying, you know. And I think that's the beauty about us as Homo sapiens, homosexuals, is that we talk, we share the knowledge, and yeah, that's how our population just grows and expands and keeps on being here, even though we're ruining the planet, but it's off topic there, sorry. But I just wanted to add that point, you know. And now back on your following, what responsibilities do creators have right now? I think we need to read more. I don't read enough, as I should, and I actually read a lot, but I know I don't read enough. But we need to read more before we start talking. We need to make sure that what we're saying makes sense. Would you say that silence is a privilege? Oh, silence is such a privilege. You being able to just sit there and be quiet and not speak on your political views, not speak about, you know, what benefits you in society, not speak about, you know, all of these things, that is a privilege. Like, I know what my privileges are. I know where my privileges lie, and I acknowledge them. And I think more people should too. Because yeah, because silence is a privilege. It's a privilege to just be quiet and know that you being quiet has no effect on your life. But you being quiet has an effect on other people's lives, and that is the privilege. And that's why we speak, that's why we perform. How much of life do you think is performance? Oh, honey, we all perform. Look at you. Look at me. We all perform. The moment you get into drag, you're a performer. Now let's take this different. The moment I go into my architecture office, I am performing. I'm performing as an architect, a professional architect. You're performing as a drag queen. The moment I visit my family up north, I step into that uncle ganko role, you know. I step into umnikuzia, you know. And that is a performance. Sometimes when I meet with my friends and you've got like different friend groups, each friend group gets a performance. I'm not saying you're being fake or whatever, but I am saying that you do have to put on a face for your social life, for your work life, for the TV, YouTube, you know, like you put on faces for all of these, and people also need to be careful for that. Don't trust everything you see on the internet, please. Also now with everything being AI as well, but don't trust everything that you see and read on the internet, please. And now, when do you think we perform to survive, and when do we perform to express? The performance to survive is like I just said, you know, it's when we step into the workplace with family and so on. But performance to express, that's art now. That's when we get into drag. That's when we get into just showcasing parts of ourselves that nobody normally sees. And I think, like performing to express is a more intimate situation, you know? Where performing to survive is really just all about working through life, you know? Like whether it is in a social setting, a work environment or whatever, like that's performance. And also you looking the way you do is also performance. Doing what we're doing is also performance. Okay, so we are nearing the end of this episode, so I want to know from you, who was your first celebrity crush? Nick, Jerry, Jonas. I mean, the Jonas Brothers, I love. And who was your first actual crush? This was back in my straight days. I was in primary school, and this girl, if she sees this YouTube video, like, bless her, she's doing good in life, and yeah. But I had a crush on this girl. We'll get into crushes again, you know, but I had this crush on this girl, and I thought, you know, because we were so close, that she's gonna like be my wife and everything. And on Valentine's Day, I decided, you know, I'm gonna put together a little package with a teddy bear, chocolates, flowers, everything. I went to her house, she knocked on the door, she wasn't there, so I decided to leave it at their doorstep. They were on the farm somewhere. In that thing, there was also a letter that said, will you be my girlfriend or whatever, you know. Oh my god. Who knew? But so come the Monday, she now obviously received and opened her gift. She comes to me and I'm excited, like I'm like very, so just before like the whole opening on a Monday morning, you know, where we sing Kumbaya and everything. So she comes to me and she's like, it's a no. She has to say no. And now my heart just sank. Oh my gosh, my heart dropped in like to my stomach. We're at the whole opening and now we're singing, everything ends. Now we have to go through register. Just before register, I ran to the bathroom and I kid you not, I was lovesick. Because did I not pass out in that bathroom in my own vomit? Sorry to the viewers out here. But oh my gosh, that was my first heartbreak. That was my first, school heartbreak. I mean, I've had a heartbreak in adult life, but that was just such a devastating memory that I'm just like, actually, how silly would it have been if we ended up together? Because she was technically also a bit of a bully in a way, that I realized afterwards, but she was actually also one of my closest friends. I just laughed that she was being mean to me, but I think that was just the inner gay coming out, you know. That is embarrassing. Okay, tell me, what is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? I always thought I wanted to have kids, and then as life goes on, I'm like, actually no, I'm fine, I don't want kids. But the most beautiful thing I've ever seen is whenever a close family member or a friend or whoever has a baby, or even if they get married. Oh my gosh, like when my friend got married, like I think it was 2-3 years ago now, she got married, and the tears that I cried when I have people around me who I love. Yeah, that's the answer. When I have people around me who I love, who are receiving love in return, whether it be by marriage or by them having babies, I think it's just beautiful to see them grow. Or even get graduation things, you know? Get another degree, why not? Like, I cry for you. What truth took you the longest to accept? My sexual orientation. Yo, I stumbled and I prayed and went through some hectic cries, but yeah, eventually I accepted myself, and yeah, I'm here talking to you as we are. And what does freedom feel like to you now? At this moment, anytime I get money, that's freedom. Like, I'm not a materialist, but the moment your financial constraints have been lifted from you, life starts looking good. That's all I'm saying. The moment you can pay your own bills, the moment you don't have to ask anyone for anything anymore, that just, that takes the cake. No, that takes the cake. And also, I must say, like, the fact that I get to look in the mirror and just tell myself, you know what, let's go out and do this. That's freedom. Because not everybody gets to get out and go do it. They should, but some people have their limitations with it. But even with your limitations, just work through it, you know? I don't know if that sounds silly to say, just work through it, but whatever situation you're in, just climb over that stepping stone and continue. Because at the end of the day will end and you would have done nothing. So just keep moving forward. Just keep swimming, Dory. Just keep swimming. And you know what? Maybe growing up queer means that you get to recognize beauty long before the world gives you permission to. And eventually, you stop hiding from beauty because it's the thing that saves you most. Exactly. Exactly. That is a wrap on episode 2 of Concrete and Glitter. See you at the next episode.